Hi, I'm Karen Morgan, and I'm a volunteer with AARP Maryland. And this is a first in the series of conversations that AARP Maryland and Senior Legal Services want to bring you about topics affecting seniors as they try to navigate the very complicated world that we live in. We're going to be covering a range of topics over the next 6 months or so. And the first of our topics is tax sales, because as it turns out, even if you pay for your house, even if your house is completely paid off, if you don't keep up with the tax payments, you could still end up losing your house. Although this time it won't be the bank taking it away, it could be your local government. So how do we avoid this situation entirely? And what are we talking about with regard to tax sales as opposed to foreclosures with regard to mortgages? Here to help us navigate this complicated landscape is Madonna Lebling. She is an attorney with Senior Legal Services. She has been the project household attorney for Senior Legal Services for the past 3.5 years. Senior Legal Services provides pro bono or free legal services to seniors in Baltimore City who are at least age 60 so that they can age in place and find ways to hand down their wealth to future generations. So Madonna, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate having your expertise in helping us figure out what the heck is going on with tax sales and why do we need to be concerned.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Let me just start by talking about Senior Legal Services for a second. Senior Legal Services is a joint program of the Baltimore City Bar Association and the Baltimore Bar Foundation. And as you said, our mission is to help Baltimore, one of our missions, I should say, is to help Baltimore City seniors age in place and pass down their generational wealth and hold on to their wealth. And to that end, we want to ensure that they do not lose their homes through tax sale.
Yeah. Yes, because losing home, not a good look if you're a senior or any age, as it
Right.
turns out. So, and here's the thing that's, the conventional wisdom for people who are approaching retirement age is pay off that house, get rid of that mortgage, don't have that debt. And so there are people who do that and they have the burn the mortgage party and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yay, the bank doesn't own my house anymore. It's free and clear and it's all me. So no more worries. But what people can sometimes not remember is that once the mortgage is paid off, the bank is no longer paying your property taxes on your behalf. Your property taxes are embedded as part of your mortgage payment. It's what we call escrow. So once you pay off that house, those property tax payments become the homeowner's responsibility. And if you don't keep up with that, then that creates major problems. So why don't we get started with talking about what is a tax sale and how does that differ from a mortgage foreclosure?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, a mortgage foreclosure is when you fall behind on your mortgage payments and the lender comes in and files an action in court to foreclose on the property. Tax sale is when you fall behind on local liens. And that includes your property taxes. For the purposes of tax sale, that can also include other county charges such as water bills, refuge bills, environmental citations, or other code violations. So all of these can add up to put your property at risk of tax sale,
Yes,
whether you have a mortgage or not.
And we have a comment in the chat saying that this is a very serious issue for seniors, and
Yes.
we could not agree more. It is a very serious issue for seniors because here's the thing, here's the dilemma. Even if you've paid off your house, if you're in some area that's become like the new it area and your property taxes start going up, but you're still on a fixed income and your fixed income is not keeping pace with property taxes or inflation at all, So now trying to make those property tax payments can become a problem. I know if, like in my own situation, like where my mom owned her house, now it was an entirely different state, but property taxes were 5 figures. And I can remember talking to her, it's like, well, I really need to make sure, because the house was paid off, I really need to make sure that I can cover these taxes because the Social Security payments were keeping pace. Mm-hmm. So, that's the situation that seniors can find themselves in.
Yeah. And particularly right now, Social Security is not keeping pace with the way inflation has been rising. So, and the market has been so hot that property taxes have been rising.
Yes.
So it's been very difficult. And seniors, of course, without mortgages are especially at risk because they do live on the fixed incomes.
Right. So we have a question in the chat. Is what's going on with this, this issue with seniors trying to keep up with property tax payments an unintended consequence of gentrification? What do you think, Madonna?
It's possible that it can be, but that's not the only reason for it. I mean, it's also just the nature of getting older and living on a fixed income as expenses rise naturally. But of course, gentrification is certainly going to make it harder for low income, especially low income people of color, when their neighborhoods are gentrified and their taxes go up. And that would be an unintended consequence for sure. But it's certainly not the only reason that the tax sale problem exists.
Right. And we've certainly seen the gentrification problem play out in Baltimore City.
Yes. And Washington, D.C. Yeah.
And Washington, D.C. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And even Prince George's County to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were talking about the difference between foreclosures and tax sales. So,
so the tax sale process, it's the local government. It's their way of trying to collect money owed to them. And so it, as I mentioned before, it can be your property taxes. It could be other expenses that you owe to your local government, the county or the city, the water bills, environmental citations, refuge charges. And if you're behind on these, they become a lien that you owe to the city. And if at the beginning of the year you have this lien, you're at risk of going to tax sale. And tax sales in the state are generally in May or June. Most counties are in May or June. Baltimore City is in May. And at the tax sale, an investor can actually buy that lien from the local finance office, and they're given a tax sale certificate, which gives them the right to, at a future date, ask the city to let them take ownership of the property. But you do most counties, you do have at least 6 months, Baltimore City 9 months, in order for the homeowner to redeem their property and pay off those taxes.
Right. And by redeem, we mean that they actually make the payments in full.
In full, yes. I don't think most finance offices won't give you a payment plan or negotiate in any way. If they're not paid off, then within 6 months or 9 months in Baltimore City, the tax sale certificate holder can actually file an action in the circuit court asking the court to foreclose the owner's right to redeem. Mm-hmm. So not allow them even to
make payments at that
pay off
point.
The lien any longer. And that court process takes a while, and you retain full ownership of the property until that court process is over and the judge issues a final order foreclosing the right to redeem. And only then can the person take ownership of the property.
I see. Okay, so what's important, the takeaway from this is that even if you are subject to a tax sale and your property, the lien is sold at a tax auction, there's still time for the homeowner to take the steps necessary to hold on to their property. And you may
Yes.
have maybe up to a year,
Yes.
depending
Yes.
on the circuit court schedule. So,
but it does get more expensive the more time you take to pay, because once it's filed in court, the expenses are going to add up. There's going to be higher interest. There's going to be lawyer fees.
Attorney's cost. The homeowner may have to pay attorney's fees.
Yeah. But you are still the sole homeowner until there's a final judgment and the certificate owner takes possession of the property and transfers the deed.
So we have a question in the chat here. What notice does the homeowner receive, and how often and how far in advance do they have the opportunity to address these taxes?
In Baltimore City, the notice goes out in February. It's going to vary by county, but I'd say most will go out in February or March, since most.
If you're delinquent in the taxes.
Yes.
Okay.
If they're at risk of tax sale. And so they get the notice in February. They have until, again, I'll use Baltimore City as an example, because May is when the tax sale takes place. So in Baltimore City, they have until the end of March to, the end of
May?
No, because the end of April to pay the taxes. And if they don't do it by then, they will go into tax sale, or their property will be added to the list of available properties open to the tax sale.
So, and the tax sale process, it's an auction, right?
It is an auction.
So people show up, and I guess sometimes they're investors or whatever, but what would the bid be? Would the bids begin at the actual delinquency of the water bill, or could it be thousands of dollars more than that?
I believe that, it could be over, but they have to, at the very least, pay off the lien to the city or county. And in addition to the initial notice, they do have to publish in a paper of record in the county or city. They do have to publish the list of properties that might be at risk of tax sale too during that time.
So, and let's talk about what we mean by delinquency, because property tax bills could be $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000. But how delinquent do you have to be? Do you have to be a year behind, or is it only a portion of that, or what are we talking about?
It depends on the county. Some are 1 year, some are 2 year. Most are, if you're delinquent up to a certain amount of money, it can put you in tax sale immediately, or at the end of the tax year, at the end of the calendar year. So in January, in most counties are $250. There are a few that are a little less than that, but most are $250. Baltimore City is $750. Prince George's County and Baltimore County are $500. So you'd want to get your balance below that amount to
not be subject to the tax sale.
Yeah, to keep yourself from going into the tax sale list.
And here, what I notice is that, yikes, that's you don't have to be delinquent by very much.
No, you don't. Not much at all. And again, most counties, not Baltimore City, but most counties, you could be up to date on your property taxes, but if you are delinquent on your water bill for $250, that alone could put you into tax sale. Thankfully, Baltimore City did pass a law that for owner-occupied properties, at least, the water bill alone cannot put a person into tax sale.
And I guess just for the record, we should note that what we're talking about here with regard to tax sales pertains to owner-occupied properties. The rules are very different and actually more stringent for properties where the owner, that's not the owner's primary residence. So we're talking about situations where you're living in the house. That's where these issues apply. And we have another question in the chat. Is there a system for notifying a family member or some other designated person when a tax sale notice is issued? Like what if the notice is going to a senior who might be having health issues or something? Is there a system for notifying another family member that that person's gotten a tax sale notice?
It would go to whoever's on the deed of the house. And it would go to that residence. It's also, again, it's published in the local paper.
Like in classifieds, or where, like in legal notices, where would you find
Yeah, probably in legal notices. I mean, it would probably depend on the paper and the county.
But given newspapers these days, this probably wouldn't be that easy to find in a newspaper, I would think. So that's interesting. So there may not be a notice to another family member unless the person's living in the household or coming to check on their.
That's possible. And I'm sure that you could also get the information. Well, I'm not sure, but you could probably also get the information at the county finance website.
Oh, that's true. That's true, because yes, that's definitely public. So we've talked about this sorts of things that can subject you to a tax sale. And, let's reiterate, water bills. If you're behind on your water bill, even if you've paid your property taxes in full, you could still be subject to a tax sale if you owe more than that threshold, like in Prince George's County, if you owe more than $500. And let me tell you, that can happen completely unawares. You can have a leak. You could have a running plumbing leak going on in your house. You could easily end up with a $300 or $400 water bill at one time. I know. I won't tell you how I know, except I know. So so not good. But if you don't pay that, then not only are you faced with maybe not having water or your water service being interrupted, you could also be faced with a tax sale.
That's right. So you do want to make sure, if that ever does happen to you, if you get an extraordinarily high water bill, have it checked out immediately. Let your public works department know immediately so that it can be checked out, and they may be able to adjust, that bill if there was some kind of leak, and you deal with it right away and get it taken care of.
And there are other things that could subject other county imposed fees, like environmental fees or assessments. There could be special tax assessments, as well as, sewer, if that's separate from the water bill, trash collection, if that's separate. So all of those things.
Right. So you do want to make sure that, not only your taxes are up to date and your water bills, but take action to rectify any kind of county or city violations or citations that you receive.
Right. Okay, so now that we've scared everyone, yikes, what the heck? So now that we're at that stage of our conversation, let's walk back off the ledge and let people know, how can they avoid all of this to begin with? How can people avoid the taxman knocking on the door? Because that's not good. We want to avoid that.
Yeah. So homeowners should definitely take advantage of any tax abatement programs that Maryland offers or that the county offers. Any water bill discounts, energy discounts, just to keep your income higher than it would be if you were paying the full price. So in Maryland, there's a couple of homeowners or tax credits that homeowners can apply for. And one that everyone is eligible for is the Homestead Tax Credit. And that limits the amount of the annual increase that can be charged that that can be assessed on your property. And that's open to anyone, no matter what age. And we encourage people to, as soon as you buy the house, apply for the Homestead Tax Credit. That's only good for owner-occupied properties.
But the nice thing about it is that you only need to apply for it once, right?
You only need to apply for it once, and
it keeps getting applied to your property taxes as long as you own that house.
That's right. Yep. Another one is the Homeowners Tax Credit. This one you do have to apply for every year, and it's for income. It's an income-based program for senior citizens, and it reduces the amount of the yearly property tax bill. Your total income must be $60,000 or less to qualify, and you must reapply every year by September 30th. The application comes out in February. It just came out in February. And if you get it in by, I think, May 1st, the credit will show on your July bill.
Oh, okay. That's handy.
Otherwise, if you don't get it in by that time, and you pay your tax bill, it will retroactively credit your account.
Okay, so those are useful resources, and let me just get back to our chat, because we do have another question. If someone gets, just to be clear, if someone does get a notice, what's the first thing that a person should do? Should the person try to get a lawyer, or, what if the person gets the notice and they know that they don't have the financial resources to pay that bill? What's the first thing they should do?
Well, there are some relief programs that we're going to get into.
Okay.
If they do get the notice, there are some relief programs that we'll talk about, and some organizations that are helping homeowners apply for these relief programs, ourselves being one of them, Senior Legal Services. But there is a Homeowners Assistance Fund that was established by the American Rescue Act of 2021, and Maryland received $248 million over 3 years to assist homeowners with their mortgage and housing costs, if they're related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And it must be the principal residence. There are grants up to $10,000 available, and deferred loans up to $30,000. The applicant must have experienced a COVID-19 related hardship, but that includes not only loss of income, but can include increased expenses. So if you're paying more
medical expenses,
medical expenses, food, living expenses, we were talking about people's taxes having gone up because of the increase in property values. These can all be counted as COVID related expenses that affect people's ability to keep up with their payments.
So if you qualify for a grant or a deferred loan, you could use that to pay your property tax bill or your water bill, or both.
You can use it for your property tax bill. It's also, you're able to use it for your water bill, any property related expenses.
Okay.
There's a separate program that doesn't really have to do with tax sale, but the HALF program also has a separate program for home repairs. But
okay, so that could be helpful. And we previously saw a list of helpful resources that Madonna's been talking about. So we can continue to make that information available for people who want to know more. And here it's being shown on the screen again, phone numbers and the names of these programs. So there are resources out there, which is the main thing. So Madonna, are there other resources that we should talk about once you are subject? Maybe some of them are focused on Baltimore City only. That's where most tax sales take place on a statewide basis. The highest number tends to be Baltimore City, and then Prince George's County second.
Baltimore City has a couple that are limited to Baltimore City. One is called the Stop Oppressive Seizures Fund.
SOS.
SOS, the SOS Fund, and
Yes.
people can apply for money to, again, help with their taxes or water bills or energy bills, mortgage, if they're behind on their mortgage. Then the tax sale exemption program. This is the first year that the tax sale exemption program is in effect, and it's going to be an annual city program where homeowners can apply to have their properties removed from the tax sale. It does not pay the lien. It just defers it for 1 year. So it will remove it from tax sale, but it's still going to be on the record. So you still have to pay it before next year to avoid being on the tax sale list for next year.
But that 1 year can really help you.
It can make a difference.
You can get back on your, maybe you can get back on your feet, and then
That's
you
right.
have the resources.
And if you apply for some of these credits, if you hadn't applied for them before, or there are water discount programs, both in the state and localities that people can apply for. And so this might give them time to apply for some of that. It is a first come, first served basis. So, they have a certain number of exemptions per year. And once that's done, it's done until the next year.
And let me just circle back to the SOS Fund, because how do you qualify for that? Just so that we're clear. I think it's targeted towards...
It's targeted towards people of color. And its purpose is to, according to their website, it aims to disrupt and dismantle predatory systems that erode property rights and ownership within the Black, Indigenous, and people of color community.
Okay. So you need to be in one of those kinds of communities to be eligible for an SOS Fund disbursement.
That's who it's aimed at.
That's who it's aimed at.
Yeah, their application process is again, it's something you would want to talk to one of the programs, one of the legal service programs about, to see if you're eligible to apply for that. And
another question that's come up is, are there any other offices, either nonprofit or government, that can help people make these applications for the kinds of resources we've been talking about?
Yes. And Senior Legal Services.
I was going to say, I bet your office is one of them.
In Baltimore City, yes, there are. In Prince George's County, there is the Community Services of Prince George's County, and they have a housing office. Midshore Pro Bono covers the whole Eastern Shore, and they have a housing unit that people can call to help them with tax sale. There are some statewide programs, Pro Bono Resource Center, Maryland Volunteer Lawyer Service, and of course Maryland Legal Aid. All are statewide. PBRC and MVLS are actually holding several tax sale clinics in the months of March and April. So if you can call PBRC, you can to get information from them, or you can call us at SLS, and we can refer you over there.
Now, but with Senior Legal Services, do you need to be a Baltimore City resident to take advantage of your pro bono services?
Our program is only eligible for Baltimore City residents who are 60 years and older. Yes.
Okay.
And if there are counties where none of these organizations seem to be a good fit, call your county bar association, and they may be able to direct you to a pro bono or low service that can help you with these. There are also, the Baltimore City has the CAP centers. There are also other organizations in the counties. Again, I think the bar associations would be able to refer you to those organizations.
And what's a CAP center?
It's the center that helps people fill out it's does social services that helps them fill out applications for these kinds of things. And, the energy program, the water programs.
Okay.
Yeah. Any kind of benefit programs that they may be eligible for.
And I know, like, at least in Montgomery and Prince George's County, and maybe other counties do this too, the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission allows any homeowner to sort of round up their water bill to contribute to a water fund that helps people who are in distress when it comes to paying their water bill. So, all of us, regardless, homeowners out there who get a water bill, we can help, people who might need assistance by contributing in that way. Can a family member from out of Baltimore or even out of state contact Senior Legal Services to assist a Baltimore resident?
We really should have the resident contact us. Because of attorney-client privilege, I mean, that's just us in general, because we're attorneys, we need to speak with the client, and the client would be the Baltimore City resident. So, they could contact us, but we would need to speak with the Baltimore City resident in order to actually offer our services to them.
And for other pro bono legal nonprofits like Midshore Pro Bono or Community Legal Services, they would probably require something similar. They want to talk to the client. So the client needs to be eligible.
Any attorney would want to talk to the client.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't do something on behalf of the client for someone else. I mean, your relationship is with the client. So. Right.
But that's good to know. And at least there are resources out there. And if that notice comes that your property is subject to a tax sale, there are things you can do. You're not powerless.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are people out there who are willing to help, and you can take steps to help yourself. So, yes. And that's one of the reasons that we're doing these conversations. We want people to feel empowered to manage their lives. So it's really important, especially if you're a senior who owns their own home. You need to feel more secure in your home as you age, not less secure.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's
why it's great that you're doing this program, and it's, bringing it out to the whole state, because there are a lot of local programs, especially in Baltimore City, but, bringing all of this information out to everyone in the state, I think is really helpful.
I think I'm so glad that you were able to take time out of your busy schedule to help us with this, because without you, it would be a lot harder to make sense of this. So I'm going to wrap it up here. There are resources, and please contact AARP Maryland on our website. This conversation will be broadcast again on Facebook, YouTube, on the AARP Maryland channels. Senior Legal Services has its website. Your county bar association can have resources. There are definitely people you can talk to if you find yourself in the situation, and there are things you can do to keep from getting into the situation in the first place. So thank you so much, Madonna. Our guest was Madonna Lebling from Senior Legal Services. We really appreciate your time and your service in helping seniors age well in their homes and stay in their homes.
Thanks. It's my pleasure. Good
to
talk to you.
Thank you. And we will have future conversations coming up dealing with elder abuse, fraud, Real ID, advanced directives. So stay tuned. We will have these conversations over the next 6 months. So with that, thank you so much, and take care, stay safe, and stay in your homes.